Two brothers went to war together, only one came home. But how would the brother who returned home break this painful truth to his family? And what was discussed between the twin brothers that last night that the surviving brother would keep this secret for years? You can also send your similar family stories to the email address in the description.
I am Thomas Michael Sullivan. The story I will tell you today is about the darkest night of my life, and at the same time my greatest test. I will share with you what I experienced in November 1944, in the depths of the Pacific, on Lady Island in the Philippines. This story is not just my story, but also the story of my twin brother, Timothy James Sullivan. Timothy and I grew up in Youngstown, a small town in Ohio. Our father, Patrick Sullivan, was an ordinary worker who worked in a steel factory. His hands were calloused, his shoulders had begun to sag under the heavy burden of years, but he was a man whose eyes still burned with the light of hope. His hair had turned gray at an early age. The wrinkles on his face told of life's hardships. Our mother, Mary Elizabeth Sullivan, was a woman known among the neighbors for her angelic behavior, with long brown hair, green eyes, and a slender build. There was an endless gentleness in her hands, and there was always a lullaby taste in her voice. Timothy and I were identical in appearance. We were both 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered, dark-haired, and blue-eyed young men, but our characters were completely different. Timothy was the more talkative, more smiling, more dreamy one. I was the quieter, more thoughtful, more cautious one. He always believed that tomorrow would be better, while I always tried to be prepared for the worst. In December 1943, 2 years after the Pearl Harbor attack, Timothy and I decided to join the United States Army together. That day, when we stood in front of the military station building in the center of our town, there was a sparkle of excitement in Timothy's eyes. "Tom," he said to me, "we will win this war together and return home together." At that time, I did not know how wrong he was, of course. We received our basic training at Fort Benning in the state of Georgia. For 6 months, we got up before dawn every day, ran, trained, and prepared for war. Timothy would not refrain from making jokes, even during training. Our instructor, Sergeant Robert Mitchell, was a short, thick-muscled man whose voice echoed throughout the camp. His face was always stern, but there was a secret love for his soldiers in the depths of his eyes. "Sullivan brothers," he would say to us, "you may be twins, but each of you will survive alone in war." In May 1944, we were deployed to the Pacific. Our first stop was Oahu Island in Hawaii. There we received amphibious landing training for a month. On those magnificent beaches of Hawaii, under the shade of palm trees, looking at the azure waters of the ocean, Timothy would constantly make plans to return home. "When the war is over," he would say, "I will marry Mary and you will marry Sarah. The 4 of us will buy a small farm together." Mary Catherine O'Brien was Timothy's girlfriend since high school. She was a young girl with red hair, green eyes, and a smile that lit up her entire face when she laughed. Sarah Ann Miller was the girl who stole my heart. She was someone who enchanted me with her blonde hair, blue eyes, gentle behavior, and sweet voice. Both of them were choir members at our town's church, and their voices rang in harmony like angels. In August, we set sail to make a landing on Lady Island. In the middle of the ocean, when we stood on deck during the night watch, Timothy showed me a letter. "From Mary," he said. "She says she will wait for me, and you read Sarah's letter too." That night, standing next to my brother under the stars, I thought about how fragile life was. But I did not know then that this would be one of the last nights we would spend together in peace. On the morning of October 20th, 1944, we made a landing on the shores of Lady Island. When the ramp door of the landing craft opened, hell was in front of us. Japanese machine guns, mortar, and all kinds of weapons greeted us. While walking in the water, soldiers were falling beside us. Timothy was running right next to me. "Keep going, Tom," he was shouting. "We must reach the shore." When we reached the shore, there were Japanese positions set up among the palm trees in front of us. For a week we tried to advance meter by meter. Our losses increased every day. There were 45 people in our company. By the end of the third day, only 30 people remained. Timothy and I were always side by side. During night watches, lying side by side in foxholes, we would talk about our plans to return home over and over again. On the fourth day, our company was given the task of capturing a large Japanese position. This position was of critical importance for us to advance into the interior of the island. Sergeant Mitchell explained the plan to us. "Sullivan brothers," he said, "you two will approach from the right flank. The other team from the left flank, and I will attack from the front." That morning, October 27, 1944, the longest day of my life began. Before dawn, Timothy and I began to approach from the right flank. The forest was so dense that we could not see what was 3 meters ahead. In the first rays of light filtering through the leaves, I could see my brother's face clearly. There was determination in his eyes, but also fear. We both knew that this mission was very dangerous. At noon, we approached the Japanese position. Timothy stopped, signaling to me. "Tom," he said in a whisper, "there are at least 20 people in the position. We are just 2. I had also noticed the situation. Our plan was for the other teams to attack at the same time, but there was no sound from them. They had probably been ambushed or encountered some other problem. "What are we going to do?" I asked Timothy. He thought for a while, then looked at me with that familiar glint of determination in his eyes. "We should go back and bring help," he said. "We cannot do anything here alone." But just then, a voice came from the position, a voice shouting in English. "Help! There is a wounded American here." The expression on Timothy's face changed. "Tom," he said, "there are our captured comrades there. We cannot leave them and go." I knew how dangerous the situation was. "Timothy," I said, "this could be a trap. We should go back and bring reinforcements." But my brother shook his head. "No, Tom. If our comrades are there, we must save them. You go back and bring help. I will stay here and watch the situation." This was one of the most difficult decisions I had made in my life. I did not want to leave my brother there alone and go back, but at the same time, it was necessary to bring help. "No, Timothy," I said. "We either go together or stay together." He put his hand on my shoulder. "Tom," he said, "you have always been a faster runner. Go and bring help. I will hide here and wait." Finally, I decided to go back in the face of Timothy's insistence. But before leaving my brother, I hugged him. "Be careful," I said. "I will be back with help in half an hour." He also hugged me. "Tom," he said, "if something happens to me, tell Mary that I love her. And also tell Mom and Dad that I love them very much." These words echoed in my ears. "Don't be silly, Timothy," I said. "Nothing will happen. I will be back in half an hour." But he looked into my eyes and said, "Tom, you are my best friend, my best brother. I love you." Leaving my brother and going back was the hardest thing I had ever done in my life. I ran back through the forest. When I found Sergeant Mitchell, I explained the situation. "There are our captured comrades there, Sergeant," I said. "Timothy stayed there and is waiting for help." Mitchell immediately prepared a team. With a group of 6 people, we went back to where Timothy was. But when we got there, we were too late. Near the Japanese position, I found Timothy. He had 3 bullet wounds in his chest. He was still breathing, but he was very weak. "Tom," he said, breathing hard, "I knew you would come." I knelt beside him. "Timothy, you will endure," I said. "We will get you out of here." But he shook his head. "No, Tom," he said, "not this time. But I need to tell you something." In those last minutes, Timothy told me the truth. "Tom," he said, "there were no captured comrades. This was a trap. But I knew this. I just wanted to get you away from here so you would be safe. Tears were streaming from his eyes. You were always the more careful one, the smarter one. You needed to survive. These words broke my heart. My brother had sacrificed himself to save me. Timothy, I said, why did you do such a thing? He tried to smile. Because you are my brother Tom, and I love you. Timothy took his last breath in my arms. That day, I did not just lose my brother, I also lost a part of myself. We finally captured the Japanese position, but this victory could not bring my brother back. I fought the rest of the war for Timothy's memory. Every day, I heard his voice. Every night, I saw his smile. When the war ended, when it was time to return home, the hardest part began. How would I go home? How would I look my family in the face? How would I explain that Timothy was not there? In August 1945, I returned to Youngstown. My parents were waiting for me in front of the station building, but their eyes were looking for Timothy behind me. My mother, Mary Elizabeth, came running when she saw me. "Tom," she said, "where is Timothy?" This question broke my heart again. My father, Patrick, understood the situation from his eyes. "Son," he said, "we lost Timothy, didn't we?" I bowed my head. "Yes, Dad," I said, "but he died as a hero." That day, in the family's living room, I told Timothy's story. How he fought bravely, how he tried to save his comrades, how he behaved honorably until the end. But I could not tell Timothy's last words, that he had sacrificed himself to save me. I kept this secret in my heart for years. Mary Catherine, Timothy's girlfriend, cried a lot when she heard the news. "Tom," she said, "was Timothy happy in his last days?" I looked at her. "Yes, Mary," I said. "He was constantly talking about you, and he loved you very much." Years passed. I married Sarah. We had 3 children. But Timothy's absence always remained as an emptiness in my heart. Every year, on the anniversary of his death, I go to his grave. And I tell him what I could not say that day. "Timothy," I say, "you are my hero. And I miss you every day." Today, I am 78 years old. I have children and grandchildren. But Timothy's memory is still with me. Every day, I see his smile. Every night I hear his voice. And I know that he is still with me, always with me. This story is not just the story of 2 brothers, but also the story of all of America. At that time, thousands of families lost their loved ones. And behind each one, there are such painful but at the same time proud stories. Timothy's memory teaches us what sacrifice, courage, and brotherly love mean. The war ended many years ago, but the memory of those heroes will last forever.